So even the German chancellor, the Germans themselves are saying, listen, we are the bad guys. Now, you know how bad things must be when the Germans, I mean, the original Nazis themselves are saying, look, we are the bad guys. Russia is right. We are wrong. We're surrounding them. We're crossing every red line that they've made. I mean, it's what I've been saying this entire time, right? And it's taken France and Germany now they're trying to break away from this NATO thing. Take a listen.
Fellow citizens of the world, I stand before you today as the Chancellor of the Federal Republic of Germany. It is an honor to address this gathering at the United Nations and share my thoughts on the state of global affairs, particularly in relation to the legacy of World War II and the current situation in Europe. As we mark the 75th anniversary of the end of World War II, we are reminded of the horrors that were inflicted upon humanity during that dark period in history. Millions of lives were lost, families were torn apart, and entire communities were destroyed. The 43 million people of the USSR in particular stands out the most, considering where we are now. As the nation that was responsible for some of the most egregious acts during that war, Germany has a special responsibility to ensure that such atrocities never happen again. We have a duty to learn from the mistakes of the past, acknowledge our culpability, and work towards building a more peaceful and just world. However, I must admit that my actions, and the actions of my party, have betrayed these lessons. We have allowed ourselves to be drawn into a conflict with Russia that has the potential to escalate into a full-blown war. This was a grave mistake, and one that we must rectify before it is too late. The current crisis in Ukraine is a case in point. We have sent tanks and other weapons to Ukraine, a move that has only served to further inflame tensions with Russia. This is the equivalent of us spitting in the faces of the surviving family members and urinating on all those graves. For helping us to reunify Germany and supplying us with dirt-cheap gas to build a strong economy, we have repaid them with hatred and betrayal. We must acknowledge the sacrifices made by the Soviet people during World War II. Approximately 43 million people from the USSR died or went missing, and their contribution to the defeat of evil cannot be overstated. But instead of recognizing their sacrifices, we have allowed ourselves to be drawn into a conflict with Russia, a move that has only served to further inflame tensions and distrust between our nations. The promise not to expand NATO was made to Russia at the end of the Cold War, and it was an important step towards reducing tensions and promoting cooperation between our nations. However, since that time, NATO has expanded significantly, including former Soviet republics. This has led to increased tensions and distrust between our nations. If we are honest, can we blame Russia for a lack of trust? We say one thing, then do the opposite, because now we are making promises to leave the door open to add Ukraine to NATO. The expansion of NATO has also contributed to a more confrontational relationship between our nations. Our decisions have led us to a war that we are trying to blame on the Russians. We have created a state of the arm web of lies that we have used to convince the people that we are the good guys. Therefore, anyone the heroes fight automatically becomes the bad guys in the eyes of our people by default. In movies, Chinese are spies, the Muslims are terrorists, Africans are murderous dictators, and Russians are evil villains or mobsters. Yet those same movies portray us as the heroes fighting for justice and saving the world with only 3 seconds left on the clock. Today, I stand before you to confess to you that regardless of what the media has told you about this conflict, we are in fact the baddies. I will say it again, we are the baddies. We ignored Russia's red lines and tried to surround a nation that has PTSD from World War II Napoleon, and other nations that have tried to kill its people and destroy their culture. Do we really expect them to sit and do absolutely nothing after we have betrayed their trust so many times? As many of you know, the Nord Stream 2 pipeline was intended to be a symbol of partnership and support between our two nations. However, last year, we witnessed our own allies, Norway and the United States, collaborate to blow up this multi-billion-dollar investment. Then, to add insult to injury, we blamed Russia for the destruction of their own pipelines. This act of sabotage is unacceptable and sends a message to the citizens of Russia that not only are they considered evil, but they are also thought to be stupid. This is a grave insult to a nation with a proud history and culture. We cannot allow such disrespect to continue in the international community. Finally, I would like to highlight that the United States is still committing human rights abuse by maintaining a 60-year embargo on Cuba while undermining China's sovereignty as it relates to Taiwan.